Good morning, Wabash. This morning it's my pleasure to introduce Dr. Lon Porter, the Byron K. Trippett Assistant Professor of Chemistry. A graduate of the University of Houston and Purdue University, Dr. Porter is currently enjoying his third year as a member of the Wabash faculty. Please join me in welcoming Dr. Porter and his chapel talk, "Well, I'm one of those fortunate people who like my job, sir. Further ramblings of a chemistry pledge."
I don't know what to say. Every time I think back of my first chapel talk, I just remember how nervous I was. I was more nervous for that talk probably than any conference talk I've given professionally. And I think it's because you're giving that talk to people that you care about more, and it means really that much more. So when I got invited to do the second one, I was really worried about, well, you know, first time I almost lost my breakfast in the morning, and so do I really want to go through it again? I look back, and that was really one of the highlights of my first year here. I really felt that it meant a lot to come talk to you guys on a Thursday morning/afternoon, so I appreciate the invitation and hope I don't disappoint. There's a little bit of kind of scheduling goofiness going on with this week and some of the craziness with email and whatnot, so I didn't quite get to do as much as I wanted to, but got my fingers crossed with the PowerPoint, so hopefully you'll pay more attention to the screen and maybe not so much to me. So first question I have for you guys: how are you gentlemen? I tell you what, I don't know about you guys, but this semester, we're only about halfway through it, and I'm just worn out. I mean, not since my first semester here have I just been just this tired, and it's because we've done so much. I mean, look what's going on. We've got, we're hiring a new college, right? We've got new president, new librarian. I can't even count how many new faculty members, new staff members. We're working on getting a new dean. I mean, it's just crazy. And so what I wanted to talk about today is just a little bit about building a bridge, about you guys are tired, faculty and staff, administration, we're tired as well, and we work so hard to make this place the best that we can make it because we care about it. And I hope that we can all, you know, when we talk to each other and think about what's going on, realize that we share that in common. And you know, there may be a few loud mouths every once in a while, or things may not be going your way, and you know, that's fine, but just remember that, you know, we're all you know, brothers and sisters here, and let's keep that in mind. So what I'm going to do today is just kind of tell you, you know, the one reason above anything else that really makes me feel that I'm doing some good here and that I really want to be here for a long, long time is the bridges I build, or the interactions, relationships I build with the students and my other faculty members and staff members. I mean, and the administration. You just don't have that at some of the other places I've been at, and this really makes that home to me here at Wabash. And so I want to talk a little bit about, I think it's almost like when you're a kid and you've got high school teachers and you see your high school teacher at the supermarket, and it kind of creeps you out because you don't think about that person as having a life outside of the classroom, and you're like, should I talk to him, or should, you know, what do I do? And so today I want to kind of show you, how do you go on a journey to become a faculty member, or how did I take that journey, and what do I like about the steps along the way? How have I grown? And maybe you'll see some of the same things that you've seen in your lives in sort of my journey as well, and maybe we can draw some new connections. So let's recap from last time. I talked a little bit about how you know, science is an integral part of the liberal arts, and the liberal arts, no matter what subject you're working on, is not an easy endeavor. No matter what you're doing, it's hard, it's rigorous, and that's what makes it exciting. That should build a passion in you. Rigor is a good thing. We talked about how science isn't exactly always seen so well in the public forum, and you know, some of the things back to your C&T discussions, right? How is science and scientists viewed in the literature, right? I just did colloquium with Dr. McCoggin, and we talked about Hawthorne, and we talked about how science is seen in some of Hawthorne's short stories. We talked about some movie references or whatnot. We'll see a bunch of movie stuff today, so you know, this kind of thing. And then finally, you know, the whole thing about about, you know, scientists being seen almost as vampires in a way. We're really shadowy figures that aren't exactly always seen in such a good light. But that was last time. So we're not trying to convert you guys. And I left you on what is science really about. But today I want to shift and talk a little bit more selfishly about my journey. And so today is actually my birthday. It's If you see. Thank you. And so I'm turning the big 2.9 today, and it was a couple days ago in lab. I said that, and someone goes, "Gosh!" I was just like, "Okay, Napoleon, it's not that old, And so, when you're almost hitting the big 3.0, right? So you start thinking about where you've been and what you're doing and where you're going to go in life, and how does that mean what you're doing, and how does it mean in terms of what does it mean in terms of what do you get out of what are you doing, and why are you here? And that's some of the meat of the issue I want to talk about today. Why am I here at Wabash, and why do I like still being here? Why do I want to be here in the future? What do I get out of being a professor? So big questions, and to answer those questions, I wanted to try to think about a bigger picture, but also a smaller picture. Chemists are always sort of bipolar in the way we look at things on the molecular scale, look at molecules, but at the same time we look at things that are masses that we can weigh. So we're always jumping. It's almost a weird disorder. And so let's jump between kind of the larger picture, why are we here, and the smaller picture of why are we here at Wabash. And I know that's not very confusing. I mean, it's pretty confusing, so maybe someone else can put it in a better context for you. Just like us, we're stuck in the middle of nowhere, right? And so why are we here? Why are we in this box canyon? Or if you want to think about it, why are we in the middle of this cornfield, right? And we got sort of our red and yellow guys, right? Our yellow guys down the road. Why are we here? What are we doing? And so to kind of answer that question, I'll talk about where I came from and how I got here. And so, I hailed from the great empire of Texas. Republic, a state. And so there's Houston. That's where I was born, good old H-Town. And this is probably where a lot of you guys will be heading in about a week. Good times, good times. And so, yeah, there's H-Town. It's not really that pretty in real life because there's, probably a haze of smog now that we beat LA in terms of pollution. So I actually enjoy being here in Indiana because you don't have to deal with things like as much crime and pollution. And it's weird because I go home, my friends kind of think I get soft because I'll go into the Walmart or I'll go downtown or something and I'll just be kind of claustrophobic because there's just so many people. And I don't know if you ever notice that when you go home, but it makes you really appreciate having space. And, Texas has a lot of space. And, the whole don't mess with Texas thing, I talked about this last time, break down the stereotypes. It's an anti-litter campaign. Don't throw junk on the road. It's not don't mess with us, that kind of thing. I was brought up in the public school systems of Texas, and we were taught the gospel, the Alamo. And, in 7th grade, we actually had a whole year of Texas history. And I remember taking that class and wondering, wow, that's pretty cool, because Rhode Island, they don't do this. I mean, come on. And so you're kind of embedded with this identity, not to mention the fact that we're probably one of the reddest of the red states. I mean, we're so red that our Democrats have to go to Oklahoma to vote. And so, it's a pretty crazy place. But there's, as much as you tout the glory of Texas, there are a few things that aren't so. So I got to give it up. District 22, the Hammer, represent, good old Tom D, in the house. And the two major religions are football and baseball. Here's your Cliff Notes of Texas right here. It's a drive-through liquor and gun store. I kid you not. You've got the legacy of Enron Field, which thank God has been changed to Minute Maid Field, but you still can't afford to go there. And then good old resident Ted Nugent, in Waco, Texas. And then, George W., which, Taylor's going to slip my tires, I can tell. But, I was watching The Daily Show, and the week that, Cheney had his little hunting problem, Jon Stewart just kind of looks up to the heavens and goes, thank you. I found this on the internet, and I just kind of remembered one of the pictures I had in our webpage, and I just looked, yeah, that's awesome. So we'll see how that goes. But everybody gives Taylor a hard time. It's And then if I talk to but if you talk too bad about Texas, you got to watch out for the Ranger, because he's coming. My dad, when I grew up, Chuck Norris fanatic. I mean, Chuck Norris filmography, if you go to the internet database, spans 3 decades. I mean, this guy is immortal. I mean, he's Chuck Norris, right? So anyway, you gotta, if you talk about Texas, even though, I gotta be careful, because, if you can see Chuck, he can see you, but if you can't see him, you're a minute away from, so he's actually not from Texas, but he loves it, he lives there, and he's a good guy, so he's part of my childhood, part of my influence, I guess. Not exactly the heroes that Dr. Rosenberg talked about in his chapel talk, but, in Texas, you kind of deal with what you got, right? So, yeah, okay. And my family was really instrumental in growing up. They're still in Texas. I mean, there's my sister Lori. You can see this is after our snowstorm of 2002. And my sisters, Lori and Leslie, my dad, Lon Sr., and my mother, really strong influences on me. My mother's actually Lebanese. My grandparents came from Lebanon in 1914. And my father's basically mostly Irish, which makes me a mutt, which is fine. But looking back, and this is something I would really emphasize to you guys when you're young enough and you still have relatives around, grandfathers and grandmothers, really take that opportunity to learn where you're from, because my grandfather knew Arabic and tried to teach me when I was a punk elementary school kid, and I just wasn't receptive to it. And I look at the missed opportunity to interact with him more, and you kind of miss that when people are gone. So if you have that opportunity, don't waste it. But I'm really close to my family. I mean, raised, Southern Baptist, and this isn't a religion talk, but kind of ended up straying away from that organized church going every Sunday because of some problems with our parish, and it's another story for another time. But still very, I still have a religious core, and one thing I guess I would kind of talk about getting the stereotypes is just don't assume just because someone's a scientist that they can have religious values. And so that came up with colloquium last week, and people want to talk about that later, we can talk about it later, but we don't want to turn this one into a heavy talk. And then my cartoons. I mean, I came home every day from school, and I'll be exact, I wasn't exactly a reader when I was young. I didn't appreciate reading until I got a little bit older, but man, you came home and you hit the Thundercats, He-Man, Voltron, and just everything, and that was really, I really enjoyed that. It was a big part of my childhood. And TV, my sisters and I were glued to the television. So, I mean, people will say what they want to, but it turned out all right. So it's not so bad. But then the science thing really just got me. And you know, I grew up initially watching Nickelodeon, Mr. Wizard, which was like the man, and then you know, you came up with these other guys, Beakman, which was kind of a you know, goofy guy, and Bill Nye, which you know, I thought was pretty cool. I wanted his job, and so you know, I was like, someday I'm gonna be Bill Nye. And then you know, MacGyver and the Ghostbusters and all this good fun stuff, and until you start to build these people up as heroes in your mind, and actually, oh, I thought there was a slide missing, but anyway. In 1985, I was 8 years old. There was a new show that came out, and here's a clip from the pilot. You gotta love MacGyver. Come on. So remember, I'm 8 years old watching this. Oh, by the way, she's walking in concentrated sulfuric acid. It's not really a good idea. There's a tank. There you go. And so when you're 8 years old, you're like, man, MacGyver's the man. I mean, and so those shows like that, and I don't know if you ever watched the A-Team or you know, shows like that, you know, it was all about, you know, using your intellect and making cars flip over 18 times and no one getting hurt and all that kind of stuff. Family Guy reference in A-Team, you should check that out. But then I kind of found out that these people weren't real. I hate to say it's from The Onion, okay, it's all right. But Bill Nye is not a scientist. He's a science guy. There's a difference, okay? I mean, Bill Nye is an out-of-work comedian. And so when you find that out and you're like, oh man, that's not the real thing. And then so you kind of, but those are the guys that really kind of influenced me initially. And then you had to kind of work for it and think about other ways of looking at chemistry. Blowing stuff up, right? I mean, come on. And so, inevitably, with not a lot of supervision, you know, in Texas, it's, you know, fireworks are like candy. You can get them wherever. And so, and back in the day, this is when I got more towards middle school and high school, you learn just enough science to be dangerous. And so, and then back in the day, we didn't have the internet. We had bulletin boards and our little, you know, slow as all hell modems. And so it would take me 3 hours to download the Anarchist Cookbook. But oh man, let me tell you, that was a basket full of goodies right there. And so, But at this time, it was totally different. You could walk into a drugstore and you could buy charcoal, you could buy sulfur, you could buy saltpeter, you could buy potassium nitrate. It was no big deal. No one even thought about it. And you'd go out and you have a good time for about $5.50. I mean, it was a good deal. And so I worry because you hear the stories about the high school teacher that, you know, got busted for teaching the students how to make whatever they made. And as a professor, I worry about you guys trying stuff too, because you can really get hurt quite easily. And, you know, there's part of me that remembers how that was sort of central to my development as developing a passion for science, but at the same time, I was stupid. I mean, and sort of as my Mythbusters, don't try this at home, here's a few, look at the cameraman running away. It's bottle bombs, not a good idea. Just don't put things in containers that you don't know what they're going to do. No, don't shake it up. No. Just, no, not, no. Oh, that's not good. Don't put gasoline in melons. No, that's, you don't want to do that. No, no. Oh, no, there you go. And so bad news, bad news. So ultimately, I got, you know, the chops and decided that I wanted to pursue chemistry as a you know, subject matter, because I knew that, and I didn't mention this, I should have, but I really wanted to be a professional baseball player when I was young, and that just didn't work out. I mean, I got into high school, and in Texas, I mean, you play all year round, and so it's really competitive, and I just didn't have the skills. I had the passion for the game, but, you know, it can only take you so far. So what really got me into it was a chemistry teacher that I had, Daniel Hanbon. He was a remarkable man that really cared about his students and would start every day in high school. I don't know how he did it, because even now, chemicals it's hard for high school teachers because they're really limited in what they can do with liability and issues like that. So my hat's off to any of you guys that are really thinking about going out and teaching. You gotta really have a calling to do that. And so this is what really got me going. And if I have to stop, drop, and roll, it's because my tie kind of soaked up a little bit of bad stuff. And so that really woke you up. It's okay, we're all right. And that was really what got me passionate about it. And, you know, having passion's not good enough, right? Because you guys all learn that you may come in with a passion to do this or a passion to do that. I had a passion to play baseball, but my ability just wasn't there. I wasn't up to the rigor. And you know you have to follow through with the passion. And so I used that passion to really kind of dive into college. And, you know, my family didn't have a whole lot of money, so I couldn't go to a really expensive school, so I went to basically the only place that gave me a free ride, which was the University of Houston. And, Houston. And so, so I got into a project working on buckyballs, fullerene, basically just soccer-shaped carbon molecules. And they were the big deal. They won a Nobel Prize, and everybody thought they were going to cure AIDS, and they were going to do that. And thousands of papers being published. And this paper, I really learned what science was about. It wasn't engineering. It wasn't about getting a product. It was about learning as you went. There's a difference between engineering and science. And I learned how to fail. And that was an important thing because I worked for 2 years, all year long, on a project and we got beat out by a team of researchers in Japan. And so they beat us to the punch. They got the publication. They got the big score. And so you kind of feel like you lost out on that. I mean, you didn't get the victory. You didn't get the publication. But I really learned through that process that science was more than just getting the publication. It was, what did you take away from that experience? It's learning about how to learn. And that's something that I hope you'll take with you no matter what area of study you're working in. It's not always about the grade, right? It's about what you get out of an experience. Now, usually the grade will kind of reflect that, but think about what you take away from your coursework besides just the GPA. So this is my first organic chemistry class. That's exactly how I felt when I was, organic chemistry was my first chemistry class in college. And this is one of the lessons I learned was that in high school, I thought I was tough stuff. You know, I thought I knew everything. I had worked, you know, put in a minimal amount of work and done really well, and then I hit college and organic chemistry just really took me to the woodshed. I mean, and so I really learned what it meant to work hard. I mean, the vocabulary he uses is so neat because you could put chemical structures in there and it would be the same thing as wormwood or whatever, right? It didn't matter. And so you really learn what it was to work and pursue something and use that passion and to not underestimate a challenge. And that carried me a long way. I got to do work with Randy Lee, a rather eccentric organic chemist at the University of Houston. We did a lot of things. After that fullerene project didn't work out so well, got on another project. And just goes to show you, you never know. You want to say science is all about the skill and you call the shots, but a lot of times there's just as much luck involved as anything else. And so worked on another project for 6 months and got a publication that's still, as an undergrad, more cited than any other publication I've had since. And so it just goes to show you, you never know, but if you work hard, eventually you'll get your due. You know, had a lot of fun too. It was kind of like a pledge class. You had a group of graduate students that were really my family at the time, and yeah, it was Halloween time. It was a lot of fun. We used to play pranks on, our lab was on the first floor, the chemistry building, and so the lecture halls that held probably about 200-300 people would let out right in front of our building, so we'd always play tricks on them. So we'd throw the liquid nitrogen out underneath our door, and you'd just hear the screams. It was great. Or you'd plant, so the floor was spotty, so you could plant contact explosive on the floor, and they'd all come out and be like, ta-ta-ta-ta-ta-ta, and it was just, oh, it was great. You know, nowadays you do something like that, and you're going to the big house, so different times, different times. Again, I underestimated college. I thought I was going to walk in there and tell them how it was and do really well. And you know, I got to do some research, and that was going pretty well. But you know, I got to have some fun along the way, read some good articles. I like the scientific distinction between chucking as being eating, throwing, or vomiting, and it's clearly. Although I think you still need to see the error bars on that. I don't know, but. And so got addicted to crack. Crack being digital crack, not the trivialized drug addiction, but I got addicted onto video games. I became a gamer, and a lot of people struggle with it, and so did I. How much, you know, you'd play a game and you're like, Maybe you guys can relate to this, I don't know, but you play a game and you're like, I'm just going to play for 30 minutes, right? And then 30 minutes goes by and you're like, oh, just one more hour, and I'll be able to. And then you see the sun coming up and that PChem report's not due, and that's how you can get into trouble. I had actually a couple of friends fail out of college playing StarCrack, and it was just. And then I like to play sports, and I got into paintball, which in Texas is really, really big. Like people actually have armies and stuff. It's really freaky. So couldn't afford it, so kind of got out of it. But then I got drugged kicking and screaming into the liberal arts. I was in the honors college, and Houston is a 36,000 student campus, really big. But within that is a very small core, about the size of Wabash, about 700 students that they call the honors college. And our freshman year, we took sort of the analog of C&T. It basically asked the question, what's the good life? Through antiquity all the way to modernity. And you had 2 semesters of it. I just did not want to do that. I was so upset that I was wasting time when I could be taking more chemistry classes. But I tell you what, if they wouldn't have forced that on me, I would have never been able to appreciate that experience. And I wouldn't be the person that I am today, to be perfectly honest with you. We read Aristotle, we read Jane Austen, we read tons of stuff. And just, it was amazing because I had Leslie Marinchin, who was an adjunct professor from Rice University, who taught the course. First time I ever had discussion. The first time a professor actually wanted to hear what my view was on a text. And that just, when I had a conversation with a professor and with my other colleagues, my other student colleagues, it was a totally transformative experience, totally transformative. And I ended up loving it so much that I ended up learning how to ask big questions. Really came back to reevaluating my religious beliefs, my core value system, and things, asking questions, not just throwing my belief system in the garbage, but questioning, asking. And I would go home and have conversations with my dad. I remember it. And it was really a really emotional time period in my life when you're kind of thinking about you as a person and how these great works impact your belief system. And that was something I would have never had. I took science and religion courses. I took philosophy of religion. I ended up getting a minor in philosophy. It was really something I would have never done. And so I've even written back and thanked them for what they've done. And it was. Sometimes I have a dark streak of humor sometimes, and so my faculty colleagues in the audience, I've been told by my philosophy professor back there that I was the greatest chemical mind to ever come out of the. So anyway, inside joke. Sorry, it was never mind. So then it was the decision: do I go to graduate school? And well. There was a core group of students that I was with that were diehard about graduate school, and we were thinking, oh, well, the PhD is sort of the holy grail. You can do whatever you want to with it, right? But it's tough. Are you prepared for that challenge? You start to question yourself. Are you ready for that? And so this is how you pick an advisor in graduate school. Or maybe not death, but a master's is sort of a consolation prize. So, so you always felt that your research advisor was this mystic figure that was too busy sometimes to help you because they were doing all these amazing things, and you never really understood sometimes what they were actually doing when they were locked away in their office. And so you kind of did your own thing, and by doing that, you ultimately became the expert in the field, and again, learned how to learn and how to ask hard questions and how to investigate things around you. And so, again, a really important thing. And this is my advisor, Jillian Buriak at Purdue. She did a wonderful thing. She let me stay in her lab and work on some silicon chemistry, which really is something I've continued to work on with nanotechnology. Again, you know, you end up coming into another family, another graduate family, basically, if you want to think of it that way. Purdue was a riot. This is when the women's basketball team won the championship, and yeah, I was out in the lab working late one night, came out, and there was like a burning shopping cart rolling down the street, and, and these guys were out, and I didn't know if they were like, you know, either a stage group or if they were, you know, playing Counter-Strike for real or what was going on, but, you know, I just stayed out of their way. Did some fun things with, you know, not so scientific work, you know, looked at ways of making science accessible to kids, so we did some experiments with PEEPs and did some outreach, that where I think I really started to develop a passion for teaching. Liquid nitrogen is always fun. Sulfuric acid, yeah, just got to travel a little bit, go to Boston, give conference talks, talk to people about science, learn that science isn't the stereotypical view of someone just working in a lab by themselves. I got to mentor my first undergraduate student, Lindsay Elliott, who's now actually at Urbana-Champaign doing great work, already has 3 publications, I think, in her second year of graduate school. She's a real good example of an intellectual and someone who's motivated and will go far. Unfortunately, this is I'm not going to picture because she didn't just wash glassware. That's sort of a misconception. I mean, she did her own project, and basically you got her started, and it's neat to see someone grow like that and think that you maybe had something small to do with that. But ultimately, you want to move on. And before I moved on, I proposed and grew in another way in terms of becoming an adult in a way, getting married. By far the best thing that's ever happened to me. You know, my family got larger, and I love my wife's family just as my own. And again, family is a real important thing in my life. And this is a special event, and I know a lot of you guys are going through it. Mr. Meyer over there, looking forward to making that big step. And so it's part of growing up, and it's amazing to see how things in your life change in terms of priority. I knew then that I didn't want to, you know, I wanted to be able to someday spend time with my family and have a life, but at the same time, I didn't want to, you know, just be lazy. I want to still have that vigorous pursuit, that passionate pursuit of intellectual and other pursuits. And so I decided that this was a good place to do that. And I've been happy here, and I look to be here for a long time. And a lot of that has to do with my colleagues and administration and you guys. Really, I mean, I don't know exactly how you get here, and I'd be interested to see some of your, I mean, I've heard lots of your stories about how you get here, but you guys make this place special, and it makes me feel good at the end of the day when I do what I do and think that I helped you just a little bit understand something or make a decision or just listen to you talk about something going on in your life. It's something that I've never seen at another institution that I've been in, and so really enjoy it here. I've got a new family, basically. You know, and it's nice to be in a group of people that works. I mean, the standard here at Wabash, I mean, there are faculty members in the audience today I could point out, I don't want to embarrass them, are giants, you know. They're not little giants, they're giants. And you know, it's it's amazing to be in a place where you have a level of passion and a level of commitment that really makes you want to achieve to be like these role models that you have. And I know sometimes we get upset and we're cranky and we shoot emails back and forth, but ultimately we're all here for the same reason, and that's really powerful. And so that's one of the main reasons I really, and it was neat because I come to visit, right? And I probably give the worst interview in the world. I'm surprised I even got the job, but you know, people will come in and they'll BS you, right? Oh yeah, I really want to be at Wabash. I know this and this and this. You don't know anything about Wabash until you get here. And to me, learning about Wabash, I'm still learning about Wabash, and I'm still growing as a person, learning to ask these big questions, learning to think about teaching, about what you guys want to do, how it motivates you, how do you learn? Not look at you in terms of a laboratory, but look at you as people who make my job worthwhile. And I've never been in a place like this, and I'm really happy here. You know, you always hear this goofiness about America stinks at science and whatnot, but I think it's overrated. What I see in the classroom is a bunch of guys who are working hard. Even the non-majors, they work just as hard to understand what's going on. And you guys should be proud. I mean, America's been flunking science since Sputnik, but we still managed to put someone on the moon. We still managed to make artificial heart. We're doing pretty well. And then you can see it on the eyes of high school guys when they come visit. I mean, that is an amazing picture. I mean, that's discovery. That's learning right there. I mean, yeah, it's a little, you know, superconductor. It's not a big deal, but that's special. That lets you go home and sleep at night. And then you have to worry about things like plagiarism. I mean, you guys, you know, you hear plagiarism, this and that, but in the real world, it doesn't go away. You have people that make bad decisions. And this guy basically almost ruined the field of nanotechnology when it was still, well, it still is new, but he basically just made up data. Didn't even have a lab notebook. You know, the guy was publishing papers on the average of every 15 days. And just really ruins the system for everybody else. And so just one misjudgment, one problem can really, and then think about when you're asking questions about your health. What if doctors, you know, and so I like the fact that Wabash really takes academic honesty as a cardinal goal. So don't fall into that trap. We live here. I guess I'm a townie now. So live on Main Street. Used to be the home of Eric Dean, you know, another giant. Wabash, and it used to be the teak house. You can see here, I think this is 1934. It hasn't changed much. We're renovating the house, and we're looking forward to putting it back. We've still left the D on the door for the deans, and so we're looking forward to that. We've got some cats, you know. We don't have any kids yet, maybe later, but, you know, we've got some furry babies, and you know, Zorro and Sterling passed away recently, but we've got Sydney and Lucky now, crazy little monkey babies, and I get to do research with students, and I'll finish up here in that. Research is really important to me because it's one of the main things main venues besides this discussion where I get to learn side by side with students when we discover new knowledge and discover and explore things together and apply those concepts you learn and to realize that science isn't in a book. It's evolving every day and coming up with new and newer knowledge. Get to interact with these guys. I mean, it's a lot of fun when we do research. When we go to a conference, you have to be safe though. and so we have a lot of fun, but we're safe too. And we're really happy because we just got another grant from the American Chemical Society, which will allow us to double our research efforts working on silicon biochips, working on the next generation of medicine and medical delivery. We also have fun outside the lab. I still think the biology guys owe us a bell, but you know, I'll keep that for another day. And you know, actually chemistry relies on a lot of math, and so we got Dr. Axtell to bail us out. And then we go on conference trips or whatnot. We had a giant food fight at one restaurant when we were in San Diego. Some real bonding there. It was a lot of fun. And then we got to go to Ecuador with a faculty trip, and I really bonded with. I still am a new person, but I was newer then, and really got to meet some of my colleagues that I only really get to meet in passing when we deal with, you know, team teaching or colloquium or in, you know, committee work. And so I didn't get the opportunity to go study abroad when I was your age, and so I hope you take advantage of that. And again, like I said, in closing, we're all here because we, you know, enjoy this, and we're here for you guys. And so I know we don't always agree on things, and sometimes, discussions can get passionate, but at the end of the day, you guys make it worthwhile, and I think that can be said for all the faculty. So I'll leave you with kind of the decryption of my Chapel Talk title. One of my favorite movies is The Rock, and Nicolas Cage, Stanley Goodspeed, and I'll end with this. Thank you, gentlemen.